Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you're all having a blessed day. For those of you who don't know us, I'm Mark. I'm a certified health coach. This is Teresa. She's a board certified family nurse practitioner. We're with Total Health and Wellness, and we like to talk about hormones, metabolic health, and everything in between. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what is the standard of care, or what is standard of care? What does it mean? What's it all about? Teresa has some stories and some case studies to go over with you. But before we get into that, housekeeping wise, we wanted to talk to them about Low Carb San Diego, didn't we?
Yeah, you get I shared it on my page this morning, but you get a discount until May 4th. Is that the 4th be with you? The 4th be with you?
I have no idea.
I think it is, or
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds good.
but May 4th is when the discount expires. So sign up either virtually or in person. If you go in person, you'll see us there. If you do it virtually, you'll still learn lots of things. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's actually at Coronado, at the Coronado
Oh yeah.
Lowe's Hotel
Yeah.
this year, I think it was. And so we're kind of excited. Usually it's at the Wyndham Bayside, San Diego. So this is the first year that we've been going where it's going to be at a different venue
I think it's the first time ever at a different venue
in San Diego.
in San
Yeah,
Diego.
right on. Okay. Well, what are we gonna be getting
Yeah,
into
so
tonight?
you guys know sometimes when I come on here, I get kind of heated, and some of you might just think, "Oh, she's kind of dramatic." But today was one of those days where I had three people come in and give me stories, and these three people were not new patients because that's usually what it is. They're my longtime patients. So, standard of care, what is it? Standard of care is a consensus of a group of people that come together and say, like endocrinology. We believe that diabetes should be diagnosed with an A1C of 5.7 and above. That's standard of care. That's how it comes about. So, standard of care is saying that you don't have diabetes until your A1C gets to 5.7 or 5.8. And you guys know that I say that's a late stage marker. You've had it for a long time. You can see it coming for a long time. But the mode of operation in corporate medicine is you have to get an ill and then they can give you a pill. So they can't do anything about seeing insulin resistant coming because the diagnosis to treat is diabetes. Standard of care is also saying that an A1C of 7 for diabetics is very, very well controlled and managed. No, an A1C of 70 is like a daily average blood sugar of 172, which is just damaging your blood vessels all day long. Standard of care is denying that perimenopause exists. Standard of care is denying menopause women treatment. Standard of care is pretty much saying that women are histrionic and hysterical. That's what we've been called most of our lives since probably the early 1900s. No, 1800s probably. A long time. I just think of Little House on the Prairie, some episodes where Mrs. Olson, and it was like she's histrionic. Um, Women were not included in drug trials or drug studies until 1993. Now, I get it. It's because we reproduce, okay? And so you don't want to ever do a study or a drug trial on a woman that's pregnant. But most women can time their periods and know when they're trying to get pregnant or whatever. 1993 was the first study that let women in it, and it was actually the Women's Health Initiative, um, which showed synthetic hormones are not great to use. But it's interesting because the birth control pill came out in the 50s.
Doesn't women take birth control pills?
Who takes birth
Yeah.
control pills? So it comes out in the 50s and women are on it and they start saying, I'm having this reaction, I'm having this reaction. And they say, studies don't show that. And you're like, what studies? There's no studies. So anyway, that's standard of care. Standard of care is there's 330 million people living in the United States. Of that percentage, there's about 167 million women. Of those women, only 7% are on hormone replacement. Okay. That means you're leaving out like 150 something million women from life saving, disease preventing, and, just health preserving kind of treatments because you think hormones cause cancer because one study says it does. It's bizarre.
Well, in medicine is very slow at making change. A lot of times when they adopt something for them to make a change, what was it, a decade, two decades? It
20
takes
years.
on average for them to make it. So, or when some sort of new process or new, breakthrough comes out, it takes a couple of decades before it's actually adopted.
Yeah.
So it's traditionally very slow.
Very slow. Um, there's a lot of going in my head. I don't need to say any of that. It seemed to be nice. Okay. So three of my patients came in today and, So the first one was, I wrote up here, 56 years old. She's been seeing me. In fact, when she walked in, I was like, hi, old friend. Because when I finally looked today, she's been seeing me since 2019. So she's a postmenopausal woman. And she said at the very end, she said, I just want to ask you a question because people forget. Okay. So even though they're my patients, you come up against doctors, MDs, DOs, and they have authority, just like police officers do because they wear this badge. So MDs have authority because they have MD. So at the end, when I was saying stuff, she's like, she confused me with her doctor thing, and I was like, I know, it's fine. But at the end of her visit for this last annual, the doctor said to her, all right, we'll see you again in a year. And next year, when you come in, we are going to have a serious conversation about you getting off those hormones. And so she was just asking me, like, I don't want to live without these. Like, they've changed my life. What do I have to go off them? And I was like, absolutely not. That's misinformation. So North American Menopause Society, which is NAMS, their old position statement was, and I smarmily add this in, if a woman complains long enough and loud enough, she can have hormones, but the smallest dose for the shortest amount of time. They've actually recanted on that position statement. That position statement by NAMS and the College of Gynecology and Obstetricians, that was based on Premarin and Provera, which is the synthetic hormones that they have black box warnings for breast cancer. But physicians don't know that. So she told her wrong information. And I was like, stay on them forever. I've been on them 12 years. You've been on them 6 years. Like, you're good. We have to remember that primaries. Okay. So her doctor's is not just a primary care. She was a internal medicine. We have to remember internal medicine and primary care, GYNs. These are the providers charged with taking care of women. They do not learn menopausal care. They do not, even GYNs. So what they learn is how to put women on birth control for their reproductive years. They learn how to deliver their babies, and they learn how to stop their reproductive years, like uterus, take your uterus out, your ovaries, a tubal, whatever have you. So as soon as your reproductive age stops, they don't know how to treat you. They don't know anything else. So that is bad information. And I think these people are negligent because people are going to not go on hormones because of misinformation. It's like coming and asking me how to fix your toilet or how to do your electrical wiring. I would be like, I don't know, not your right person. So instead of saying, gee, I don't know, there's clinics in town, or Google someone to go to, they tell you it's dangerous. Okay, then the next patient.
Can I, before you get on to the next patient, can I, so if somebody was wondering, what the difference is between like the synthetic hormones like Provera that you talked about that was in the Women's Health Initiative that did have a warning of cancer that was related to it, what's the difference between that and like the hormones that you're doing, the bioidentical hormones?
So Premarin is pregnant horse pea, and that one's not so bad if you started early. But in the Women's Health Initiative, the mean age for those women was 63. So those women, like I went in, I started estrogen on my 50th birthday. So had I waited, I would have been 13 years without estrogen protecting my coronaries. And that's where the problem is. The other problem with the Women's Health Initiative is most of them were overweight, many were obese, many of them were smokers, and a lot of them had already had a heart attack and stroke. So Premarin pregnant horse pea really doesn't have any problems if you take it early enough, because even with the synthetic hormones, they don't tell you that 59 and under, women 59 and under did great on synthetic hormones. And then Provera is a progestin. So that's the mini pill, the Depo-Provera shot, the Mirena IUD. There's probably more, but those are the main ones that I always remember. That's the one that has a black box warning for breast cancer. And I get women all the time. I actually had a internal medicine doctor come to see me. She was on Prempro, which is Premarin and Provera combined. And when I was going over her labs, her progesterone level was 0. And she said, I don't understand. I'm on progesterone. And I was like, you're on Provera. Provera is not progesterone. Provera has a category X warning, which means you cannot give it to pregnant women. It's a teratogenic to fetuses or babies. Progesterone we give to women that are pregnant all day long with history of miscarriages or history of PCOS to prevent miscarriage. So it's completely different, but your providers, even GYNs, think Provera and progesterone are the same.
I just thought it was good to have clarity on that. And just to be more specific, is these are not the same things as what you're prescribing, right? And this is something totally different. You're doing
I'm giving you what God made you with that we just stopped making. So we stopped making progesterone in our late 30s, mid 30s. We stopped making estrogen anywhere between 45 and 55. I just diagnosed a 49-year-old today with full-blown menopause. So it can happen.
Yeah, I tell people it's like taking a vitamin or nutrient. It's not introducing a synthetic, chemical drug into your system. It's introducing something your body recognizes lock and key is to be the exact same thing it would normally make if you were healthy anyway.
Yeah.
So it's more like a supplementation with something,
Right. So like pregnant horse pea Premarin, again, doesn't have a huge amount of risk if you start it early. It's full of, I think it's 11 equine estrogens, so horse estrogens. We do share 2 with them, so our body would recognize 2 of the equine estrogens, but the other 9, it has no idea what to do with. And that's where you get risk of side effects. When you're doing bioidenticals, you're doing lock and key. So I say, God made your receptors for estradiol squares. When I take my estradiol capsule from the compounding pharmacy every morning, it squares. When it breaks down, it squares, and your body just puts them into the square receptors, and you just go about your business. Okay, so number 2 is a 57-year-old woman who was in a very serious bicycling accident. She was hit by a motorcycle as a bicyclist, and consequently, she has a lot of disabilities because of that, but she's trying to work out because she is now about 20 pounds overweight and wants to do our band workout. She tells me that she was just at her provider's office, and he said, you can't do any exercise. You can't lift anything above 10 pounds because she has 2 umbilical hernias, which are outpouching of the internal organs through your skin. So my first thought is, okay, so first of all, I said, he doesn't know that I'm asking you to do the band workout, sitting down and only upper body. You're not going to go see him and he's not going to go, oh, hold on, let me look up the smart training workout and all the ways you can do it. Interesting. Oh, let's watch this little bit. He doesn't care about any of that. Okay. I'm not saying he's necessarily bad. I'm just saying he has a 7-minute appointment. He's not going to do that. Secondly, standard of care is any procedure, male or female, back surgery, give birth, uterus out, thyroid out, doesn't matter. Don't lift more than 10 pounds. That's what they say. And some of you guys are going to be like, yeah, that's what they told me. So don't lift more than 10 pounds. So I'm thinking first, you're 20 pounds overweight. So now you're lifting more. When I put that weighted vest on every day, I'm like, good God, how was I ever 20 pounds overweight? This is like so heavy. Okay, so she's overweight. So what is 10 pounds? He told her just to walk. And then he told her, I can hardly say it. He said,
just do it.
She's 57. She's 57. I'm 53. You're 50. He told her, you're too old. You're never going to lose weight again. Just walk. So then you have to know that sets her up at 57 for sarcopenia. You're going to lose muscle mass. Frailty gets women into the nursing homes. Look outside the box, man. Just a tiny bit.
One of the biggest risks we have when getting old, what we're trying to get at is sarcopenia is the muscle wasting. As you get older and you begin to lose lean muscle mass, the lean muscle sets you up for what's called resting metabolic rate. You have a number of calories, if you will, or the amount of energy you expend during the day just from your muscles to sustain your musculature. And as you get old and you begin to lose that musculature, your resting metabolic rate goes down and down. And that's why older folks, and they used to be the only ones that get it, but older folks typically were the people who became insulin resistant and diabetic at the later years because they were becoming so frail, right, and they were losing their muscle. Now we're getting it a lot younger for other reasons, but
sedentary.
But yeah, so one of the worst things you can do is not resistance train and not do some sort of training to at least maintain, if not to actually put on lean muscle mass as we age. It's really important.
Very. So I said to her, I'm not with you, but he's also not with you. So you're going to have to, for your own health, because if you listen to the healthcare system, you're going to die slowly. You're going to still die, but it's going to be slowly and miserably. And otherwise you could live until you're 70 or 80 or 90. But if you're in a nursing home and you don't know who's who and someone's changing your diapers, I don't want that either. So I was just really,
I think they're okay with that. I think they're okay as long as you're standard of care.
Standard of care.
And as long as whether you're miserable and you're living in your house and you're so weak and frail and obese and whatever else you pick, your fill in the dots. As long as you're taking those medicines that you're being prescribed for all these conditions that you've gotten. And those conditions didn't just start all together. You get one and then you get the other and you get the other, and they compound on each other. And truthfully, a lot of the prescriptions you get put on cause a lot of the conditions too. So, but they're okay with you sitting there and suffering through all this for the rest of your life rather than living a vibrant, healthy, energetic life, the one that you deserve, so you can spend time with your kids, so you can spend time with your grandkids, so you can go out and enjoy your senior years with your wife and travel and do the things you're supposed to be able to do.
God designed you to live in freedom and to live in victory.
Yeah.
I need a note, like I'm in a debate, so I can write down what I was just thinking.
Are you getting ready to move on to number 3?
No, I was going to say something really important.
Okay, we'll get on to number 3, and the more important thing will come back to you later. That's what happens with me. I do that all the time.
And then lastly, Janie, who works our front, came and said, this patient, I put her on for Monday. And when I read the note, it said, and this is someone that's been with me for a while, but again, you just forget. And then you go into a situation where there's an authority there, and it's kind of like, wow, they're super mad. They're pointing. Sometimes they're pointing in faces. And it said, just had a pap smear at her GYN's office and now has conflicting information. The GYN said she absolutely does not need to be on thyroid. I know what I was going to say. It was about Dr. Bernstein.
Okay. Go for it.
Should I come back to it? Will you help me?
To number 3?
Come back to Dr. Bernstein.
Let's do that. You go on with number 3 and we'll come back to Dr. Bernstein. This one's on me. See, we're such a good team. Isn't this great?
So the GYN is absolutely correct. It is not standard of care to treat a patient with thyroid unless they are hypothyroid, unless their TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone, is out of range high. Does that patient get treated with thyroid medicine for hypothyroidism? They don't care what your thyroid hormones are. They don't even care to look into resistance at the cellular level. They don't care to look how much you're converting to reverse T3. They only care about the TSH. So her physician is absolutely 100% correct. So I just had to remind her that we have files in a secret group, and I've written out all the hormones, spent a lot of time. So I just had Angie send her that. And it just prompted me to do a post in our secret group, like, hey guys, remember, this is why we're doing stuff. And most of those people that are with me now is because they were tired of standard of care. But it does get scary. I mean,
yeah, especially for newer folks who are just coming on your program, and sometimes people, you just forget. Like after a while, you forget. It's like, if we don't talk about keto and low carb and hormones for a while, we're going to forget things.
Yeah.
So
you forget.
That's normal.
But standard of care does not mean health. Standard of care is a consensus, like the ranges that we talked about a couple weeks ago, like the cholesterol ranges used to be 400 and 300. And then as Big Pharma got involved, it gets lower and lower and lower, so they can trap everyone for the statins. Standard of care, I was going to say, Dr. Richard Bernstein is a endocrinologist. He just died. He was 92 or 91, and he made great strides in the diabetes arena. He went against the grain. He was an engineer, had a diabetes type 1 back in the 30s or 40s when he was born, when it was really like you didn't really live past probably 20, and figured out. His wife was a doctor, so she was able to order a glucose stick, glucometer, where you can stick your finger. And he figured out when he kept his blood sugar low that he felt way better, and the side effects like neuropathy and blindness, like eyesight issues, all that stuff went away. He went to present it to the Endocrinology Association, and they said, you're not a doctor. So he went back to med school at 40 and became an endocrinologist. However,
that still wasn't good enough.
Right. Because he wasn't following the standard of care.
Right.
But he interviewed over his lifetime many endocrinologists and said, why won't you adopt a low carb diet when it's clear? Like, patients can just wear a glucose monitor and see what oatmeal and banana does versus eggs and bacon does to your blood sugar. And they all said the same thing. If a patient does low carb, and this happened to me with my low carb guy that I always brag about, if they don't do it correctly, and we're not there to monitor them, he fainted and his blood sugar passed out, and his blood sugar was like 40, and the ambulance came. And those people very easily can have seizures, and die. Okay, so they don't want that. But if you get your leg cut off, if you go blind, and if you end up on dialysis, that is what's expected with the standard of care. So you can't sue them. Now, a provider could get sued if they put them on low carb and they died because of a seizure because they weren't figuring out their blood sugar good enough.
And it's not standard of care.
It's not standard of care.
Another great example of that is cancer, the cancer industry. You know, I mean, they'll oncologists will kill cancer patients all day long by following standard of care, and nothing happens because they're giving them the appropriate medication that the American Cancer Society is saying you can give them. So it's standard of care. But if they try something different, they go outside of the norms of standard of care, then they'll go to jail. They'll have, at minimum, they can get their license taken away and be sued and all these other things. So it's very scary for these practitioners. So I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, which I hate doing, but you know, it's scary for them, and they're scared to step outside of this little box that's been created for them in the corporate medicine world.
I've heard Dr. Simone Gold and Dr. what's the Texas lady with ivermectin? She got her license. Mary Talley Bowden. I've heard both of them talk about, and Simone Gold went to school as an attorney first and then a doctor. She's super smart. She said in law school, you are encouraged to think outside the box. You think critically, you come up creative, you know, and she said when she went to med school, it was you stay in this box, you do not ask questions. And she said most of the people that go to med school are the straight A types and the types that want to follow the rules. And so like, okay, and you give me a box and I could get here and I can stay here and then I feel good about it. So frustrating. So that's all I got.
Okay. That was a lot. Well, we're at 21 minutes anyway, and so it's not easy to upload 21 minutes in the phones anyway.
Well, it's not easy for us providers to step outside the box, but it's not easy for you guys either. So don't give yourself grace. Like my patients today that got overwhelmed with their providers were saying, they need to give themselves grace. It happens. But if you are strong enough and rooted enough in not only what we're saying, but what is online and the other things, and you figured out, like, I don't care if you do carnivore, just do something that's going to make you healthier and stick with it, then you're going to do better.
Yeah. If you guys are watching this and you want to find a doctor who specializes in hormones, or if you want to find one that specializes in metabolic health and weight loss using low carb and keto and whatnot, on the description section on the YouTube video and on the comments section on Facebook, you guys will have a bunch of links in there that you guys can follow, and links to a whole lot more. There's podcasts, our website, our social media pages, you name it, it's there. So please utilize those resources while they're there. But anyway, the links that I was mentioning with the low carb and the hormone providers are their provider directories is what I was trying to get at. So you can actually look up and find a provider in your area if you need one.
Yep.
So
we just want you to be the best you can be.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. So as always, we love you guys
so much.
God bless you. And we'll see you next time. Don't forget, food matters.
Bye.
Bye.